to trust and obey. Not a burden we bear, not a sorrow we share, but a toil he doth richly repay. Not a grief, nor a loss, nor a crown, nor a cross, but His blessing we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. But we never can prove the delight of His love until Lord on the altar we lay. For the favor He shows and the joy He bestows are for them who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. And in fellowship sweet, we will sit at His feet, or we'll walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey.
Amen. May the church be seated. As I mentioned earlier, that today we'll be discussing, today in our first presentation, we'll be discussing two topics. So each speaker will take one topic. So our first speaker will be discussing the biblical role of spouses in marriage. So our first speaker this morning will be Elder Anakuru. Just before he starts, I just want to explain that after each speaker, because it's Sabbath school, it's interactive. So after each speaker, the speaker will give you an opportunity to ask questions. So if you have questions with what was presented after each speaker, then you'll be given an opportunity to ask. So we'll welcome our first speaker, Elder Anukuru.
Good morning and happy Sabbath, everyone. Permit me to take off the mask. I want to thank God once again for this opportunity. If everything should go well, I will have a 10 minutes presentation and a 10 minutes for us to interact, and the same thing will go. And so that's the time frame we are estimating. And also, if you have anything to say, you kindly come forward so you can make your comment. And for those who are watching online, you can still send your questions or your remarks through the Facebook or the YouTube. If we can't respond to them immediately, we are going to find time to make sure we address this issue. Okay, let's go straight to the point. Biblical spousal roles. So now we are looking at the roles of men and women, especially in the context of marriage, because that's the context at the end of the day. I want to take us back to Genesis. So we are looking at from the Bible. What does the Bible say about what is the role of a man or a woman? And for the youth, we are looking at a situation whereby two people are planning to get married, or they are looking at the future together, and they want to start discussing issues like this, because that's the time to discuss these issues. Not when you are in the marriage, then you start discovering that there are issues amongst you because of so many reasons. When we look at Genesis 2 verse 15, that's going to do that now in toil, in hardship. So when we look at Genesis 1 to 3, we can say that in a relationship or in a marriage relationship, when I say in relationship, we are looking at it from youths who are aspiring to, who are currently in a relationship right now, or who want to, or who are looking to that. So, well, primarily what God had put in a man, the burden. It's not a responsibility. It's a burden to say the ability to take care of the child, of the family, of providing for the family. God placed that burden on a man. A woman can't bear that, even if a woman is earning money. Even if she's working, that burden of taking care, and that is why today it seems as if men, when there's a pressure, a man naturally, most men naturally will just absorb it. There's no food, there's no money for this, a man will naturally absorb it. But a woman naturally would not. She like, we don't have this, there's no this, a woman tends to be reactive when it comes to that. So it is a natural burden that God has placed on a man. Now, when it comes to caring for the family, taking care of the home, a man is naturally not that, he doesn't have that gift. A woman can multitask. She will cook, she will go to work, she will do this, she will do this, she will do this, she will do a whole lot of things, and she's not complaining. Even if she's complaining, she's not really complaining, because that is the ability God has given her. Okay, let's move forward from there. Now we look at when we go to Genesis 25, we see Jacob and Esau, right? These are two boys in a family. There are no girls involved right now. We see that Jacob was domestic, while Esau was wild. So Esau was in the context of Genesis 1 to 3. We can see that Esau was playing the role of going to fend, going to provide for the family, whereas Jacob was playing the role of taking care of the family. So Jacob was a good cook. If not, I'm not sure Esau would have loved to take the porridge or even exchange his birthright. And that was not the first time Esau would have eaten from Jacob, because he learned from his mother. Okay, so I want to a compliment, or that was so she was able to compliment him in that role. Let's move forward. When we go to Romans chapter 16, 8-5, we look at Aquila and Priscilla. Now, the Aquila and Priscilla are not showing a typical example, but there's something I want to bring out quickly from that. Aquila and Priscilla, when we also go to Acts 18, 2 and 3, and Acts 18, verse 18, we see that Aquila was a tent maker, just like Paul. But that's not just all. Anywhere Aquila is mentioned, Priscilla is mentioned. And they are not mentioned, Priscilla is not mentioned in a passive role, but in an active role. When Paul was journeying, he went along with Aquila and Priscilla. I want us to read Acts 18, verse 18. I just want to read that quickly. Acts 18, verse 18. Okay, we have it there. It says, and Paul after this tarried there yet a good while, and then he took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence to Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shown his head in Catra, for he had a vow. Okay, what the point of this this verse is that Aquila and Priscilla went with Paul. It was a risky journey, because if you read later on in Rome, in Romans 16, I think 3-5, when Paul was trying to greet the church, he said that Aquila and Priscilla she was very instrumental in the church's welfare of that time. Now, having said that, let's combine these things together and let's bring it into our modern day Christian life. I want to say, okay, in summary, what we're saying is that God has put in a man the responsibility to take care of his home. Whether he's earning money, he's not earning money. That is not the point. The point is that that burden. And that is why when a man in his right senses is not working, he feels threatened. He feels something is wrong. He wants to go. If he feels belittled, demeaning, he doesn't want to go and ask for help or whatever. That pride actually is a healthy one, in the sense that it's supposed to help him to go and look out for work so that he can provide for his family. Now we see from a woman's role, her natural tendency is to take care of the home, and when she leaves that for something else, it becomes a problem. Now the Bible does not tell us clearly whether a man should wash the plate or mop the floor or iron the clothes or do something. There are no clear biblical injunctions that say this is what the role of a man is, or this is what the role of a woman is. But in principle, we know that we are supposed to complement each other, and we are supposed to play roles. We play our roles better when we play them according to what God has given us naturally. So putting all of this together in the 21st century, where we have women who work and they should work, we have men who are probably, I have a friend now, the wife is working, but he had to stay at home because she has a better job than he does. So they agreed, you go to work, I babysit the kids at home. He's babysitting right now. So what about that? If you don't understand yourself, you end up forcing yourself into a situation. We live in a cultural setting, and it's important for us to understand that. We live in a cultural context of we need to the father mistakenly saw him in the kitchen. He had a serious conversation with his son. That is something that is very critical. So now you say, oh no, it is your role, it is my role, and so on. So there is a conflict in that regard. So we need to understand where we're coming from, and that is why sometimes it is always advisable to marry someone you have the same understanding with, someone you have the same philosophy with, because at the end of the day, you are going to have a conflict. Let me give you another instance. I come from a culture where men and women can speak freely. They speak freely, and there is nothing wrong with that. But I also know a culture where it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. If there's an elder in the district, you cannot just talk straight. You have to pass the message. It has to go and go and go before it gets to the elder. So when these two people now come to church, what do you think will happen? Or if these two people get married, what do you think is going to happen? From a cultural context, it will be like, hey, you are not supposed to talk to me like that. You are supposed to go through this route. Or no, why can't you just talk to me like that? So I'm bringing in the cultural context because it is very important for us. And as young people, we need to understand, we need to be able to put a balance to this. We should not be pressured into forcing ourselves into a cultural context that will take us away from the biblical context or principle of what our roles are. In conclusion, there are no specific indications in the Bible that say that this is the role of a woman or this is the role of a man. However, God has given a man, the men and women, natural tendencies to bear certain responsibilities. And when there is an overlap in those responsibilities, there is usually stress in some cases. And we need to understand that, know how to balance this, and be careful how to interpret the principles God have given according to our culture or according to how we understand our culture. It is important for us to say that. I've spoken more than enough, and I would it will be better if I get responses or questions. Maybe that will help me deliver the presentation very well. But for so far, that is where I want to submit my presentation this morning. Okay, so that is it. We can, if you have any, you need further clarification, or you want to ask a question, you can indicate, and I will allow you to come and say that quickly. I don't know how many more minutes I have before my order comes. Yes. Okay. Yes, my brother. I want you to come forward so that you can be audible.
Just for I just want to ask. I need clarity, or maybe I didn't hear it properly. I don't know if I'll be quoting you correctly, but okay. Yeah, I'm saying I'm not sure if I'll be quoting you correctly or not. If I am not, you will then correct me. But I wanted to ask, I think I heard you saying that women do not have in them the ability to take care of a family. Did I hear it correctly? So my question is that because I've been around families where some of the families that there were no men at all, and it was just women that were there, and those families actually, most of them, some of them that I have seen, they do better than even those that have men in them. So yeah, that's the clarity that.
Thank you very much for that. No, that's not what I said, or probably maybe I didn't clarify clearly. I'm basing my argument on Genesis 1-3 to say natural tendencies. God has placed in a man the natural ability to take care of his family. That is, he doesn't need to think it. It comes naturally. That is him, and that is where his ego is. He feels good when he's able to provide for his family. He feels good when he's able to do that. Even when the woman is earning a million, for example, he's still the one in charge of providing for his family. That is the point. So it's a natural tendency. That doesn't mean, like, for example, I gave an instance where a friend that the wife is even working and he's staying at home. So there are overlaps here and there, but it's a natural tendency for a man to provide. That is what God has placed in him. If we understand from the basics, we will understand certain things, why certain things happen. Whereas on a woman's side, it is a natural tendency to care. A man cannot multitask.
Amen. I took upon myself to go.
She did not do that because when she looked at even their lives, she saw misery in some of those instances, and she decided to move on with her life. And today we thank God for that. Let me quickly. I'll take the last hand. Yes, I'll take it. But let me quickly make this distinction. When Adam was given the responsibility to plow the field, God created man with more muscles, with more physical muscles, to do more. So man has the ability to do more physical work. I mean, physical work, lift things, to do more things. God has given man that ability. But when we talk, but today we are talking about what? Mental. We also have. It's not just about physical. In fact, the best paying jobs today are not even the manual ones. They are what? The mental ones. And when we look at the mental ones, God has not limited that to a man. He has not limited that to a woman. When it comes to generating income and so on. I just want us to understand that there are basic principles, there are overlaps, and our context today also differs. So if you are looking for a place in the Bible that says that you are supposed to wash the plate, or you are this person supposed to mop the floor, or whatever, you may fight over that, you may not see anything. But when you understand the basic principles of God's intention in your life as a man, in your life as a woman, you are able to blend, you are able to resolve whatever you think is the issue within your relationship. And that is exactly the point of this presentation. Rather than trying to say this is what the man is supposed to do and this is what the woman is supposed to do. Yes, sir. I think I'll wait for the last comments then.
It's in the book of 1 Timothy 3. I cannot see in my Bible, so my glasses are. It gives us an indication, more or less, on what you ask for, where God describes it better for women in a household. So there's a little passage in 1 Timothy 3 where Adonai says to us what we must do as women, what a woman must do. Read that. I can't see my Bible.
Okay, I think I'm not getting that very quickly, but I think this is 1 Timothy 3 talks about is that
1 Timothy 3.
1 Timothy 3, yeah, it's talking more about but I think I understand I think that should be in Titus, where talking about women, women should what roles they should play and so on. I think I will get that if anyone gets that quickly. Because this for 1 Timothy 3 talking about roles in the church and some of deacons and so on. Yes, ma'am. Okay, please, I'd like to take that.
Please just repeat the question so that everybody is one line is okay as follow the conversation. It says, in Genesis chapter 9, it says, in the case of a woman earning more money than men, how can a man still step up to assume his leadership role?
In a case where a woman earns more than a man, can a man take up, how can he resume his responsibility as the provider of the house? That is the point we are trying to establish here, to say the role of a man is beyond just any more money than a wife. A man in his natural tendency, okay, let's take for example, issue of food. A man lacks the ability to start thinking, what are we eating in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, then the next day, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. And so he lacks that. He doesn't have it, but rather, okay, is there meal in the house? Is there rice in the house? Is there this in the house? That's where how he's thinking. He's thinking from a broad point of view, whereas a woman is thinking more from how to implement those things. Now, going to the question, you see, that is the pressure we have put ourselves in the society, and that is why it is very important for us to understand it. And that is why sometimes some men don't allow their women to go to work, because they feel that when she goes to work, she will earn money. Not even more, she will earn money, and if she earns money, she becomes proud, arrogant, and she will not be submissive to her, because money has been weaponized, and sometimes they feel that. So the role of a man is to protect the home. Is that husband is about shielding. It is more than just earning. And that's why we are trying to tell our youth that we need to start thinking away from what the society is telling us and what the principle that God is giving. If a man finds himself not working, like my friend, I said, my friend is actually literally right now babysitting at home while the wife is at work. So a man, we need to pray. God needs to pray that God will help him to humble himself, and we to pray that God also help the wife to humble herself so that they can understand each other. Remember our example of Priscilla and Aquila. Priscilla and Aquila walked together. They went everywhere together. They had that understanding, and it is important. And remember also, we said that your cultural context also is important. If you come from a culture where this is how things are done, you are likely going to follow that route. And it is important for you to understand what the biblical principle. So whether the man is working or not, God has put in him the ability to take care of his family. Taking care of his family is not limited to having money to buy things. A man's role in family is broader than that, but we have narrowed it down to money. We have narrowed relationships down to he's taking me out, he's buying me things, I'm just there as a woman to receive gifts from him. We have taken, and that is where we are having problems today. I hope that has answered that question. Our time is really up. Okay, thank you very much. If there are more questions, we can talk more on this. I will allow Muzacha to come and deal with the second response, and I'm sure he's also well qualified to make responses and give more insight. Thank you very much.
Happy Sabbath, church. I think we can do better than that. Happy Sabbath, church. On this Global Youth Day, this is the day for the youth, and worldwide as a church, the youth are engaging in various activities and different ministries they're working on. And today we are here at Tshwane doing our part. May I be permitted to take this one off so that we can hear each other properly. So, thank you, Elder, for that presentation. And I think I particularly just want to reinforce the last point that has just been made. In this world, money is overtaken everything. And it's problematic. Because when it's not there, it means we're not going to have marriages to talk about. I would also encourage the youth as we go on. Probably we need seminars on communication more than, because some of these things can actually be solved around the communication in the home. Last Sunday, I had 3 presentations I did on communication. And I found, as I was doing that research, I found that if we engage in that aspect, many of the challenges that we encounter in our marriages, in our day-to-day interactions, will actually be resolved, and will not be an issue at all for us to be talking about. So my discussion this morning is centered around, does God hate polygamy? where exactly in the Bible. And Sister Zanele said, these were topics that came from the youth. And I think Elder Zungu, there were about 7 topics there, if I'm not mistaken, 6 thereabout, and we could not cover all of them. Some of them, the church has a position on them. Some of them need the senior pastor to deal with. Some of them, we can talk about them, but they need time to get into research and be able to have an informed discussion. So we just picked the 2. The first one that has just been done, and the second one that I'm just going to cover. And like I said, today is the Global Youth Day. Our theme for the millennium is our goal. That's our theme, and we are representing the youth of the church there. That's why you see the logos. I just want us to look at that and the caption that is on there and tell me what you think. For those that can't read, maybe I can read for you. Is the picture clear?
Yes.
Right? It's a woman that has got 2 husbands. A woman who is happily married to 2 men and live in the same house with them has shared photos of them together while speaking about their relationship. That is the source. It's a news article that I took. This is not a figment of my imagination. It's a newspaper article. And I'm inviting thoughts. What is your thinking around this? And remember, my topic is, does God really hate? No, it's not my topic. The question came from the youth. Does God really hate polygamy? Let's talk. It's a discussion. Sabbath school. And by the way, because it's a special day, we're not following our normal church programming, so some of us might actually be getting on the edge. Time is ending now. We're not doing our lesson start. We're a bit away from there. On the Facebook, you want me to do it now? I think you being my other half, my only one wife, right. Let me emphasize on that one as well, so that people don't think that the elder subscribes to another school of thought. I'm waiting for comments, by the way. It's going to be tricky. You can search the email. I emailed it myself and you can reply. Yes, Brother Munyarat. Try to speak up so that I can repeat your question as well.
Okay. To me, I can say this is always becoming like a thing that is coming slowly.
Okay.
It's not the first time for me to hear about it.
Okay.
I've also seen another documentary on YouTube of someone who also have 2 husbands. But to me, I think it's, these days people that are into experimenting.
Okay.
So I think it comes from that thought of they want to see how does it work or how does it feel if I can have 2 husbands and live with them, something like that. And also it might be an experimentation, or perhaps she's rich and those guys they just want to marry.
Okay. So for the sake of our online viewers, the contribution from the brother is that it's taboo, although it's becoming more and more frequent, and he's come across a whole lot of these online or YouTube documentaries are there. Also, not sure whether it's an experiment or people are doing it for the sake of money. The woman might be rich, and the 2 guys are looking for something else. Any other contribution? Should I move on? You brought this topic, so let's talk. Is this polygamy? Yes. Hello? Yes. Okay, there's a brother who is shaking his head left, right. Why would you not consider this as polygamy?
For me, I don't think it's polygamy. Because when we talk about polygamy, we're talking of a man with a number or wives.
So
that's polygamy.
Your definition or understanding of polygamy is a man with a number of wives. All right?
And
Yeah, go ahead.
and for this space, like my brother said, it's more like an outlier and a taboo. Those things that normally you don't expect in a society.
So, a question: the fact that it is an outlier, does it remove the fact that it is polygamous?
It actually it's name. I'm actually forgetting the proper name for that kind.
Okay. Polyandra. You know, I belong to the old school. Poly something something. Polyandry. Okay, polyandry. But what is common between polygamy and polyandry? So here we are talking of the same root, right? We're talking of the same root. Okay, right? So any other contributions here? Yes, Sister.
I think under polygamy, we have polyandry and polygamy.
Okay.
So polygamy is where a man marries two women. And then polyandry is where
I think Sister Itu, come. Our online viewers need to hear this one. But I think it's important. It takes us to the root of what our discussion is all about. Please explain exactly what you just explained.
So I was saying we have under the heading polygamy, it means a spouse who marries multiple partners. But then it goes into subdivision, where we have polygamy and polyandry. And with polygamy, if I'm not mistaken, polygamy is where a man marries two women. And then polyandry is a woman who marries
two or more.
Multiple men. Okay, so I guess we should just classify it like that.
Thank you very much, Sister. Thank you. So now we have a common understanding of what we're talking about, right? But what I want to check is that a hand.
Sorry, I just wanted to get to what we said. It's just say here. From a biblical point of view, as much as God did not accept polygamy, where a man has
many
more
wives.
than one wife.
Yes.
We see it prevalent in the Bible.
Yes.
But in the case of
polyandry,
polyandry, where a woman is with more than one husband, those things are normally regarded as abomination.
Okay.
So for me, such kind of a thing should not exist. We should be discussing. I know it's happening.
Yeah.
But we should be entertaining a thing like maybe it should be a part of the constitution. I'm thinking it's better.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's a reason I'll tie it all up together. There's a reason why I put it up there, right? Because I want to hear your views. So should I then take it that the general consensus is this is taboo? You have to speak to me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Let's move on. And that, by the way, Brother Mirad, you are right. There are a lot. I just Googled and I went to pictures. There are a lot of pictures of women who have married many men. This is the society we are living in. So whether we deny it here or not, this is exactly what the world is like. So I just want to move on to the next. And that, what are your thoughts on that one? Nigerian men married two wives, twin sisters same day in Lafia, Nasarawa State. I just took this one because that's a clearer picture I could get online. It is not only prevalent, only found in Nigeria, it's in many places. But I just took it because that's a clearer picture I could get. I also want your thoughts on that one. I need to hear you. No, I want your thoughts. The same way you shared your thoughts on the women, we had comments, isn't it? And allow me, I'm going somewhere. We're talking about polygamy, right? The topic that was brought by the youth, Sister Bridget, Brother Mashala, and then in that order, Brother Wellington in that order.
I think it's not something that God prescribed for. If we want to go to the basics, God created a man and a woman. He didn't create a man and women. And then now, as we went along, Abraham, when he couldn't have a child, and then Sarah said he must take Hagar.
Yeah, very clear that it started before that.
Before that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, if you took Hagar, now they started to fight between the two women. That's how that.
Okay.
It's not what God wants.
It's not what God wants. Okay, Brother Michelle.
For me, I just want to say that even moving away from the biblical perspective.
So sorry, Brother Michelle, I missed it. I'll repeat what Sister Bridget has just said now for the sake of our online viewers. Go ahead.
Okay. I was saying that even looking at it not from the biblical perspective point of view, for me, I think I think in this whole thing of polygamy, there is always an unfairness in it. What I'm trying to say is that whether you like it or not, in everything that you do, even you, my elder, as a father, I'm sure that you would know deep down that, you know what, even with your kids, you do some comparison at some time. I don't know if when you compare looking at the intelligence of the kids, because they will not be intelligent the same way. And same way, I feel like even with this man having two spouses here, he's probably not treating them 100% the same way. For which, for me, I believe that the reason why a man or a woman should only have one partner, it's so that their attention is not divided, and maybe this one has more attention and more privilege than the other one. So I think from the fairness of it, it's only fair for one to have one, so that their attention can only be directed to one direction.
So, Brother Bashawa, you're taking this one. It's not fair. Right, that's what the kids would say. So just to recap before Brother Wellington comes in, just to recap for our online viewers, Sister Bridget simply said this is not acceptable to God. It causes a lot of pain and strife, and that was not God's plan. Did I summarize your point properly? Brother Wellington, I will need to just move on after, and Brother Munyag will be the last one so that I can move on.
I think most of my, whatever you say,
has been taken. You stole your words. Okay, no, that's fine. Brother, my elder, Munyarad, you can just say I will repeat, unless if you want to come through to the mic, that's fine.
Okay. What I want to say is we need to go back where it started.
Okay.
When God created Adam and Eve, there were two of them, and He blessed their marriage, the two of them. But now we see that there are people who had more than one, even in the Bible. I think let's go back and check who started it. I want to read from
Genesis 4:19.
Yeah, 4:19. I'll start from 17. It says, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And you know, Cain is it's after he killed his brother, and he was told that they are going to live in a certain country or area. He was cursed already. Now we see the generation of Cain. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And Enoch 18, and Enoch was born Irad, and Irad began Mehujel, and Mehujel began Methuselah, and Methuselah began Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. Yeah, so you see that this thing, it didn't start with God, it was started by the descendants of Cain. And if you go down, you'll find that that same Lamech says in verse 23, and Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye my wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my head. If you read about that story, you will see that Cain was this Lamech was the second person to kill someone in the Bible after his grandfather. Cain did that the same thing. And here, if you check about this story, you find that he killed someone because he thought that person was, he wanted his wives. He had 2 of them, and he was jealous of the 2, and he killed. But what we learn from this verse is God never blessed this marriage of 2 wives that we see from Lamech. It was started by Lamech, not by God. The one that God started, he blessed, it was Adam and Eve.
No, thank you very much. So some of the discussions have gone beyond or ahead of what we're going to be talking about. So here is the challenge that I want to put us to you. Let me go back. Is on this first one, we concluded that it is taboo. That was our conclusion, right? What is our conclusion on this one? Now the house seems to be divided. What is our conclusion on this one? Yes, Mrs. So on the first one, people say it's taboo and unacceptable. And on this one, people are saying it's acceptable. So it's not as what? Okay, so this one is not as bad as the previous one.
No, it is.
Okay, some are saying it's still the same. Brother Munyara, do you want to say something?
Right. I would like to say it's still the same. This is also taboo.
Okay.
But the thing is, because of our cultures, some of us grow up knowing that a man can have 2 wives.
Yeah.
So to us, it's becoming like it's normal. But it's abnormal when we want to look at from the Bible.
From the Bible.
Yes.
So,
but because me, my grandfather had 3 wives.
Okay.
From like
yeah. Okay.
So when you want to look at it, you will think that
it's acceptable,
but it's not.
Okay. All right. Brother Wellington, you might need the sanitizer going around with the mic as well. There's somebody there.
Sorry?
No, sorry, I'm just talking to Brother Tanaka. There are sprays in the back, so you can just sanitize. Go ahead. Sorry, Brother Wellington.
Okay. I'm trying to think about why the person who brought this topic was thinking. And what I'm seeing is this person might have gone through the verse from the book of Samuel, where God says, where God is talking to David, he says, after David had sinned, if I'm not mistaken, taken Uriah's wife, God says, I even gave you the wives of your master, meaning the wives of Saul. So, to some extent, that's why I'm sure the church is also divided. When you come across such a verse where God is actually more like instituting something like that, it becomes more like acceptable to the general.
All right.
Yeah. Though, of course, I still agree that in the original beginning, it was one man, one woman.
So that has made my life easier. But here's the thing. We deliberated this for the 3 of us. we battled in trying to understand where some of the questions were coming from. But it is the reality, it came from our youth. And we need to accept the fact that we don't want to quash these things and it's come across as if elders are hindering what? Discussions and progress. So we discuss it. So I'm getting the general feeling that the first one seems to be, okay, it's taboo, but society has made it acceptable and we seem to accept. The second one seems to be, stop, no, this can't happen. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. That is patriarchal. It's patriarchal. And that stems from culture. Which culture in itself is problematic. When I was told about this discussion, I went deep to try and understand what culture is. And many of us, our understanding of culture is superfluous. It's deep. And here's where the problem then comes in. You want to bring that deep subject into a biblical or religious context. It will not work. It will not work. And I'm going to come across as being too firm or too harsh. But this is the point. I say to myself, of all spiritual challenges that we are encountering in our church, really, do we need to spend time talking about this? Nevertheless, I did the research, and we will talk about it. Culture is a pattern. Meant after who? Who is the stencil of that pattern? Is it God's pattern, or is it devil's pattern? Ask yourself that as we go on. Culture is shared based on basic assumptions, invented, discovered, or developed by a given group as it learns to cope with problems of external adaptation and internal integration that has worked well enough to be considered valid, therefore is to be taught to new members of the group as the correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems. Whose lens are you using to look at polygamy? For one to ask a question, does God really hate polygamy? Brother Derek. I think the mic. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Elder, for the opportunity. I just want to talk maybe from the perspective of the question.
Yes.
Today, we are living in a society. There are sub-societies within the Adventist Church that are beginning to question the very foundations of what we believe, or what the church was brought up on.
Yes.
And the environment which we are existing in today is beginning to question why we are even called Christians from an Adventist point of view. So now what's happening is that we are finding ourselves in an environment whereby people are putting questions in our minds of things that we thought we already knew. And those things are wrecking some people who are not really convinced. You see? So now when somebody comes, the reason why I assume this question was brought, actually, there are prominent figures in the last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks or so, that have been posting on Facebook saying, there's nothing wrong with polygamy. What is your issue with polygamy? And then for some of us, we think, oh, wait a minute, I thought this is cameras too. So now when we come here, we are coming from being battered and bruised, where things are being flooded around us. Yeah. And when people are seeing prominent figures putting such questions, people are okay, wait, are we the ones who are wrong here? Is there anything wrong with this? So from the point of view of the question, it is informed by behavior that we do not expect from certain people.
Yeah, no, it's granted. That's why I went ahead, right? If we want, we can go and even have more deeper discussions around culture, because I studied it. Not that I'm an expert in it, but I read around when this thing came up, right? That's why we are we're talking about it, right? And the question that I want us to then just ask is this. From a definition, and by the way, this is a combination of different definitions that has been put together by this author. He's a researcher, or she is a researcher, I'm not sure of the gender there. But this author researched the definitions, different definitions of who? Of culture. And this is where it's coming from. And I want us to think about this. It's a pattern, assumptions, invented, discovered, developed by people to cope with problems, to adapt. All these words, that you really think about them, are actually man-made. It calls for you and me to go back to the Bible. And as such, that's the approach I then took. I went back to the Bible. But as I get into the Bible, I started outside the Bible. That's why you saw I started showing those pictures. That is outside the Bible. And just there, before we even get to quote the Bible, many of us here already saying, no, but this is not unacceptable. No, this can't be, this can't be. This is just outside the Bible. Now I'm going into the Bible. Are we together? Right? I'm now going into the Bible. We didn't start for debate. We didn't start for the questions. That's why we took the questions. And we're discussing them now. Now, before I even go further, I want us to agree. Let's shake our hands and agree on something. Is that okay? I know I'm running out of time, but God help us to get there. Let's agree on something. Firstly, God, as our Father, is a good parent, right? Who gives his children good gifts. What it means, in other words, is this. God would not withhold something that is good for me as a child of his. Do we agree on that basis? Do we agree? Is there a chance someone amongst us who does not agree? Good. We move on. Second agreement. God has good thoughts for his children, a future and a hope, according to Jeremiah 29, verse 11. Most of us are familiar with this verse. Peace in that verse means welfare or well-being, which means God would not withhold something that would harm me. Are we in agreement? God wants to give me a peace of mind. Are we in agreement? Now, since you have agreed with me, from now on you can't disagree with me. Are we together? Thank you. You're such a sport. Let's look at one of the rules when you're studying the Bible, the rule of first mention. What this rule simply means, according to my understanding, is this. When you're studying the Bible, go to the place where something that you are studying is actually mentioned for the first time. Are we together? You look at what was happening, you look at the context, why was it said, who was it said to, and all the other things that you can think about. And when you go back to Genesis 2:18, this was already quoted by some as well as they were sharing their contribution, as well as Genesis 2:21 to 24. And you do a textual analysis. What we're simply saying there, we are looking at the text, the phrases used, the words that are what are used, the meanings in the phrases and the structure of the sentences and what is being said there. What you come across is God created one Eve for one Adam. Right? And not Eve for an Adam. Do we agree? Right? And Adam, when he saw this Eve, went into poetic stance where he's saying, my bone of my bone, rib of my rib, and whatever else he's saying. And he says, this is your help, what? Your helpmate. And again, my elder, then coming to the role. Your helpmate, because you're coming from here, doesn't matter who is anymore. It's the two of you. How do you see each other in running the affairs of that family? And your roles are defined from there based on your communication within the home itself. It's not about money. So here, coming back to the subject, we see in verse 24, to be joined to his what? For this reason, man shall leave his what? Father and what? To be joined to who? It doesn't say wives, it says wife. And as Elder Marekere read, the first case you see of polygamy is actually Lamech, of the descendant of who? Of Cain. And what I like about the Bible is the Bible does not conceal the bad and the good. It gives us all. We choose. God does not tamper with our choices. If you choose polygamy, that's the way for it. But that's outside of God's what? Outside of God's authority. But it's up to us. The second aspect is when you go to Genesis 16. So the first argument against polygamy is this: God created one Adam for one Eve. First point. The second point, when you go to the story of Genesis 16, verse 17, this is where Sister Bridget was going. If God was pleased with polygamy, you can rubber stamp the plan that they came up with. Am I right? Am I correct in my thinking? You have rubber stamped that, but he didn't. He still insisted that this is not the son of my what? Of my promise to you. The third aspect, there are other texts in the Bible that refer to a wife. I call them other wife texts. If we have time, Malachi 2:15 is one of them. I will just ask you to go and read for yourself just for the sake of time. Malachi 2:15. Right? Another one, Proverbs 4, verse 4. The Bible says, he who finds a good wife finds a good thing. It doesn't say he who finds good wives. He who finds a good what? Wife. Not wives. Next, Proverbs 18:22. Ecclesiastes 9:9. Somewhere along the Bible says, enjoy the wife of your youth. It doesn't say the wives of your youth. It says the wife of your youth. Ephesians 5:33. Can someone read that one for us? And somebody, I would ask you to just go to Titus 1:6. I'll just, I'm getting to the end so that we can have another discussion. We sort of like started already with the discussion, but that will be fine as well to open it for discussion. 5:33. Is there anyone there, or should I just read from my Bible?
Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33 says, yes. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself.
So love his what? Wives?
Wife, singular.
With an F or the V-E-S? Maybe your Bible is different from mine.
It's F.
It's F, right?
Yes.
So read it again.
Okay. It says, nevertheless, let every man of you in particular love his wife, even as himself. And the wife see that she reverence her husband.
Husbands. Or husband. Do we see the difference here? Is that a mistake? Talk to me, guys. Is that a mistake? And Titus 1 verse 6, I think it's more emphatic. More emphatic. Okay, English. If any be blameless, the husband of one wife. There be faithful children not accused of riot or untruth. So how many wives are we supposed to have? How many husbands are we supposed to have? One. And Mama would want to really appreciate your contribution. My mother went through the very same thing. I was a bit older. The strife that I saw my uncles wanting my father's inheritance, even to the point of marrying my mother to get access to it. we bring pain in our lives by disobedience. I mean, I have one wife, lovely wife, but she's too much to handle in terms of attention. Imagine I have to then give Brother Mashaba. You said giving attention to 4 equal. It's not possible. We can lie to ourselves, and God did not intend for us to go through such pain simply because we want to trigger our own emotions. Then one is going to ask, where are these questions coming from? Are they really coming from? I understand what Brother Derek was saying. But is it more about God or it's about pleasure seeking? The Bible, Paul says to Timothy, in the last days, people will be lovers of pleasure. And this is what we are seeing now. I want to conclude this. Can you go back to my slides, please? I want to just conclude this by saying, this issue becomes spiritual. This becomes, seriously, it becomes spiritual. It gets spiritual in the sense that, number one, the relationship between a husband and wife is like that of Christ in this church. How many churches does Christ have here on earth? Because when you read the book of Ephesians, it tells us we have got one Christ, one baptism, and one faith. Those 3 are important. So if we are saying the relationship between Christ and this church is a depiction or a reflection of the relationship between a husband and a wife, by deduction, we are also saying that Christ has more than one wife. Christ has got more than one. Spiritually speaking, we are simply saying that Christ has more than one church of the world. But we know, according to Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, there's one remnant. So what goes on in my marriage is actually a reflection of what goes on in Christ's church. And this way it becomes tricky now. It's no longer about just marriage. It gets spiritual. And Christ has one church, has a husband, and has one wife, and the one wife, the church, has one husband who is Christ. And lastly, polygamy distorts the nature of the relationship that God intended right in the first place. When we go back to the book of Genesis, only one church represents the remnant. And as Adventist, that's what we believe, and that's what I believe. Now, let's talk. Any questions? Like I said, we started with more of a discussion, but I'll invite more comments. I think my elder here has something to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want us to know that our understanding of the Bible, like he rightly said, is very important. When you understand the context to which an issue is raised, then it helps to understand, to have an idea of what is happening. I think the crux of the matter here is this. When we look at the Bible, there are certain things that are written in the Bible that we say that, well, if God allows it, then it is okay. Now, remember that when God's original plan was that Israel would not have a king. Remember, God wanted to rule them through who? Judges. And when Samuel was lamenting, was crying that God, they have rejected me, God said, no, they did not reject you, they rejected me. Remember, I think in Deuteronomy, it says, when you decide to choose a king for yourself, God laid out what was going to happen. So in actual fact, the fact that we have examples of David, of Solomon, and so on, shows that there was an aberration, there was a deviation from the original set, and so it does not stand. Polygamy does not stand from that context. It is important for us to take note of that. Sometimes also, God looks at the bigger picture than run after little things that the devil is using to distract him. Do you understand that? For example, let's take slavery. There's no part in the Bible that really say that God condemned slavery, in quotes. Rather, what did God do when they were coming from Egypt? They were already with a slave mentality. So rather than say, okay, slavery does not exist, or I don't like slavery, or I don't like polygamy, or I don't do all those things, God decided to give them something that is more gospel-like. To say, if you have a slave, give that slave some rights. Give that. So now, someone who is a slave somewhere else would rather be a slave with the right with an Israelite, because in Israel he or she has some right, and through that means that slave could actually come to the knowledge of the truth. Are we getting the concept now, or the idea? Because, like what Frederick said is very true. We are living in a time when sometimes we begin to ask ourselves, but we thought we already sorted this out years ago. So why are these things? And these are not just coming from people that don't know the Bible, or people we have entrusted the knowledge of the Bible. These are coming from elders, these are coming from people that we have relied on to teach us the word of God. And that now, self-doubt now comes in us. So I'm bringing the issue of slavery as an example. Or it's not just about polygamy, it's about, so the principle is what now matters. And that's what we're trying to present to you this morning, to say that we need to look at things from a principle point. It's going to get worse than this. As we go on, even more issues will be challenged. We need to go back. What was God's original plan on this? If this was God's original plan on this, then let's stick to it, even if culturally we have deviated from it. And that is very important. I just wanted to take note of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other contributions, questions? What did the serpent say to Eve? You shall surely not. Did God really say? So we need to be very careful with some of these things. Yes, we can discuss them, but it might not be worth us expending all the energies on some of these things. And this is not to stifle debate, but we need to understand what is behind these things. And please, I would encourage any of us, stop following people and follow God. Because when a man falls, you will sort his issue with his God and he will come back. But usually those that have fallen with him don't usually find their way back. Please just go back to the Bible. I see there's a hand there, then I'll come to you. Yes, Elder Marigan.
Thank you. I wanted to say, if you check where this thing started, the controversy started in heaven. First Timothy chapter 3. It says, this is a true saying. If it desires a good work, a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife. So they stop there. Then they say, if you desire to be a bishop, then you should have one wife. But if you don't desire the position of a bishop, you can have more than one. But if you read this chapter, from verse 2 it says, a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife. So if you want to change the husband of one wife and say you can get if you don't want to be a bishop. We can also say if you don't want to be a bishop, you can be someone who can blame for anything. It also says you should be open.
It is a slim, it is dicey. But I want to quickly say, don't use Abraham's case as an example. Why? Abraham, what is her name? Hagar ran away the first time. God said what? Go back. If God, we have agreed that God he does not approve of polygamy. But if God, it has nothing to do with Hagar, he would have said, okay, move from there. And God never instructed Abraham or Sarah to send Hagar away. But Sarah, seeing that she could no longer cope, which is not a consequence of what she did, because it created a problem. She told Abraham, and now Abraham now went to God. And God said, why are you coming to me? When you are doing what you are doing, you did not come to me. Bringing that up so that we don't quickly rush to say, oh, no, because it's God that told Sarah or God Abraham to say, no, God did not say that. Neither am I saying don't cut off from it. it's complex.
All this guidance is provided in that prayer. So what I would then just encourage now is we add this particular question to the lobola issue, because I think there's some similarity with what was being asked around the issue of lobola. Because that issue was split into three or two other things that were attached to that particular question. Yes, Brother Wellington, we just need to close up. So
okay, I just wanted to say I'm interested in the presentation of this particular person together with what you've already said. Because I've got a brother who is married to Tshwane. I don't mean my religion. I mean,
Christ brother.
Yeah. So the guy was actually going from a church. So we did some Bible studies with him. Then he really accepted the SDA church truth. Then he even went to the extent of being baptized. Unfortunately, on the day of baptism, he just overheard some discussions around this issue, around his topic, because he had too much. Then he just lunchtime he went away. He never entertained us anymore. So I think I'm interested because I really want to get whatever so that I can approach him once again. Because at that moment it's like we not really talk to people.
Yeah.
So I think I might be able to get some assistance.
It's actually a genuine practical issue, this one, and cannot be dealt with on a theoretical level. But like I've said, I know for a fact that the church has got guidelines around when to marry. Like, for instance, if you divorce, who divorced who, how do you get through the process? There's actually a committee that evaluates this and all that and give proper guidance. And we will definitely now, the youth department as the elder, I think the pastor has already accepted, Brother Marijan, you will cover these topics that the youth have also explained. I will also take time to engage in my own studies as well, but I have an idea of where to find some of the information. But rather, let's cut it for now and we deal with the issues the pastor will address them. All right, so it's 11 minutes after 11. I want to thank you so much for participating and for being part of this discussion. Like I said, whenever you're doing a Bible study, it has helped me personally. And to come across some of these difficult concepts, always go back to the rule of first mention. When was it first mentioned in the Bible? What was the context? What happened? And spirit of prophecy also has got a lot of guidance and a lot of questions. I didn't get into the spirit of prophecy aspects of things. Even the role, right? When you read Adventist role, it gives you a whole lot of these guys. But one of the major responsibilities husbands have in the home, the spirituality of your family is on your head as a husband. The environment of worship is created by you as the husband. And she goes further and says the mother plays a role in supporting for that environment to happen. And the mother also has to do a lot of teaching of the little ones, the toddlers, So I'd encourage you, go and read your Adventist form, because there a lot of guidance about these things. May God bless us as we continue with ourselves today, and may we look up unto Him. Please do not follow people. Do not follow people. Because when they fall, it will be difficult even for you to get yourself up again. Our focus should be on Christ. He should be our pattern. He should be our custom. Do you realize the Bible actually mentions custom 3 times? I'll give you the verses just quickly if I can allowed to do it. Custom, which is similar to culture. Psalms 119, verse 132, Acts 15, verse 1, and 1 Corinthians 11, 16. And when you look at these, particularly the ones in the New Testament, it's talking about custom or culture in the sense of as it was their custom on Sabbath, they went to pray. As it was their custom, they would meet on Sabbath in the synagogue. That on its own should tell us what we ought to be doing when we think of things around culture. Our culture should be centered around Christ. Shall we bow our heads and pray? Our kind, loving Father in heaven above, we want to thank you for the engagement we've had. Lord, should it be that we have erred and we have failed and sinned in the things we have done, in the words that we have said, may you please forgive us. But our cry to you, O Lord, is to give us light, to give us direction. For we know that with your Holy Spirit, can you press upon us, O Father, as we read, study your word, and meditate upon it, O Father, you give us direction. Now I ask and pray that, Lord, may you put a desire within us to learn of you, that we may understand your will upon our lives, that we may walk softly before you. For your word in Malachi 6:8 tells us that what is it that God requires than to walk humbly before you, to love mercy. Father, this is what you're all asking us for. And I ask of you, Lord, that may you give us the courage, give us the strength, give us the zeal, O Lord, to walk in your presence. And may you not forsake us, O Father, because of our own will. We ask, O dear Lord, that even our children, may they grow up looking up unto you as our stencil, as our pattern, O dear Father, not fallen human beings, dear Lord. How I pray, dear God, that your Spirit is poured upon each of our hearts, that we may accept and give ourselves at you. Thank you so much for the discussions we've had. We are praying, O Lord, that that which is unanswered, the questions that are still to be answered, may you give the wisdom, O Father. You know who of your children you have put your wisdom to be able to deal with these questions. And we are praying, dear Lord, that help us, that we not distracted by the devil through his many devices, oh Father, that he wants to use to get us off track. These are dangerous times. And we know, dear God, that you are the only one who can keep us on track. Lead us by your word. Lead us by your righteous right hand. And may your Spirit, as you promised in John 14, that you teach us all things and give us direction. For this we pray and ask in Jesus' name. Placing all the services that are to come in my hands. We know, dear Lord, that you will guide us. Be with your children who are going to be standing here, Lord, to share your word. We also want to thank you, Father, for the offering that has been presented. May you add a blessing upon each of those that have given, Father. And for those that did not, may you give them what they need. And may they bring the same offering to you because you have covered their supplies for us. For this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you.
Okay, as we can all see, we went above the time that we're given, but even we did that. As we think the last time our team number 14, we would like to call Frederick to come and give us a 10-minute summary of our event.
We will see and we see. Oh, we'll walk by His side. in the way. What he says we will do. Where he says we will go. Never be lonely. Trust and obey. Trust and